Hi, Bhama.
Hi, Rajpreet.
Hi, good evening, Bhama. So lovely to have you on the platform today.
Good evening. Good evening. Likewise, I'm excited to be here too.
Sure. And I think today we'll be talking on a very interesting topic on mental health. And
Yes.
before that, let's quickly introduce you to our audience. So we have today with us Bhama Suresh, who will be talking about mental health, power of a narrative, learning disability in children, and mindfulness. With a career spanning 30 years of diversified corporate experience in the areas of production planning support and employee relationship management, Bhama made a career shift at the age of 45 and moved into the area of mental health support and became a practicing psychological counselor and psychotherapist. Special interest in human behavior management, psychometric testing, emotional support, counseling, psychotherapy, inclusive education, alternate therapy and healing methods, crystal healing, and therapeutic uses of storytelling. Master degrees in English, counseling, psychology, and psychotherapy, full-time student counselor and therapist at leading higher education institution in Bangalore. Qualified special educator and conducts train the trainer programs for teachers and parents to handle children with learning disabilities and remedial methods. She's a certified graphologist, handwriting analyst, and a graphotherapist. Currently on a journey of in-depth study of acupuncture therapy and a lifelong learner. Wow, that's a lot, Bhama. So lovely to have you.
Thank you.
So Bhama, what really, made you do this career shift into a space as interesting as mental health? Please do
Act-
share.
actually, it's a very funny story. I did not imagine it would turn out this way anyway. So actually, when I was, it's a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. When I was trying to look for a job, I was offered a job in a leading pharmaceutical company. After going through rigorous 4, 5 rounds of interviews, and this was way back in my career, like when I was very young, must have been late 20s. And when they were handing me the appointment order, they just very casually asked me a question. So you're a graduate. So at that point of time, I wasn't a graduate. I was a 3-year diploma holder, which is actually technically equivalent to be a graduate. But when I said no, I don't know why they didn't read my resume because it was all over the place in my resume. But I did not get that order. And they said, no, we have a company policy. We employ only graduates. It was extremely shattering for me. And that day I decided that I will call myself a graduate, which happened many, many years later. I joined a correspondence course. I did English literature. And once I started studying, it was a kind of a momentum which got built in. And when I finished my English degree, I thought I'm having too much of time on hand now. I can study something else. So that is when I turned towards psychology because I've always been interested in human behavior. So I thought, let me study about that. And so in 5 years from then, it just flew. And I saw myself holding 2 degrees in psychology as well. And on the side, having come into contact with people in that fraternity, I also did a classroom course in counseling psychology, which was very experiential, very, very interesting, and actually piqued my interest in that area. And so I decided to shift from my corporate rat race into the area which is so dynamic. There is no monotony at all. So people say, 9 to 5, I go to job, I do the same thing every day, the same process. Well, in my area, it's not like that. Even if I meet the same client, the issues are different, the challenges are different. So it's really very dynamic, and I love doing this job. So that is what brought me into this, and it's a very what to say, very changing field. It keeps changing so often. Like 10 years ago, mobiles were not so much part of our lives. So we didn't study much about it. But now I have to tweak myself to deal with people with mobile addiction. So that way it is a very dynamic field. And that's why I said I have to keep myself upgrading with more knowledge, with latest things, in order to be connected to the present day problems. I would put it that way. In fact, learning disabilities also came along that way, because my first job was in a school, and I saw that many students were struggling in spite of having the best teachers, and teachers couldn't understand them, but the child was good in every way. But inside the classroom, with their reading and writing, they were a big mess. So that led me into learning about why some children are like that. And then I got into learning disabilities and all that stuff.
That's great to hear, your journey, Bhama, and thanks. I'm sure that it was a long one, and I'm also very much intrigued by the role of psychology in our day-to-day lives. And I'm also studying psychology at this age, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. So, Bhama, mindfulness is really the buzzword these days, and people talk about
Yes.
mindfulness, about collective consciousness, and we are hearing all these buzzwords. So, what really does mindfulness mean to you?
Mindfulness, the definition per se is a very simple one, is just to focus on what you're doing here and now. That's it. Simple. So put your 100% mental faculties to involve in what you're doing right now. So both of us are talking. So if I'm focusing uh, completely in what I'm saying, if I'm making eye contact with you, and I am with you in spirit as well as in person, that amounts to mindfulness, because there is zero other thought in my head. But it's very easier said, but quite difficult to practice. So that is why most often when we start about mindfulness, we tell people to observe their breath. The most easiest thing and the most relatable thing that somebody can do is to observe their breath and be 100% present and just watch your breath and not engage with other thoughts. So it's a long journey, because mindfulness is not something which you just do 1 or 2 days and then you become an expert in it. No, it's an ongoing journey, and every time you will discover a new thing that comes in between. So how to conquer that and how to be in the here and now is something which is constantly a challenge. But the benefits of mindfulness, like you said, that it's the current buzzword, because it helps you keep calm. It helps you find joy in the moment. Because technically, using my um, mental health background as well, if you were to ask me, the previous moment is already gone. You cannot go and shift. You cannot go and change even an iota of it. The next moment, you are clueless of what's going to happen. You're just thinking about, or we have this tendency of imagining things and then worrying about them. So that's what we are doing if we are worrying about the future, because we really don't know what's coming. So what is currently available as a truth, as a reality in front of us, is this moment. So when you break it down into such a simple thing, somehow all your worries kind of gets pushed to the background, and you become happier in the current moment. So that is why most of these lifestyle classes, or these camps and things that help people to focus more inward and to help improve their health issues in terms of lifestyle diseases, helps because of this.
Sure. So, Bhama, you talked about the breath, and are there more practical techniques how people could really focus on the present, on the here and now?
Yeah, they see many things, like, breath is the most easiest thing anyone can relate to. But any kind of hobby that you practice, like suppose, imagine that I'm an artist or a painter and I'm working on a masterpiece. I have some conceptualization in my head, and I'm going to put it on, I'm going to bring it to reality. So right from the mixing of colors, right from drawing my background, I am completely going to be involved in it. I will not feel hungry. I won't maybe not even visit the washroom. I may not, answer my phones. I may not even know where my phone is. So you're completely involved totally in what you're doing at that moment. That also is mindfulness. So if you practice any kind of hobby as well, is mindfulness. People who play a game on the field is mindfulness. It is as simple as that. Because you're completely involved in that, you will not think about any other thoughts at that time. That doesn't mean you don't have worries or you don't have challenges or problems, but you kind of put them aside and you enjoy the moment.
Sure, Bhama. In fact, nowadays we also hear terms of mindlessness,
Yeah.
where actually you're having that absolute state of a thoughtless kind of a moment.
But that I feel is more like a utopia because it's very, very difficult to achieve because thoughts are something which are so innate in a human nature. So maybe controlling, yes, with practice you can do it. But I really don't know how we can get into, at least I haven't experienced it. So I cannot comment on that.
Sure, sure. So you're doing a lot of work on, dealing with learning disabilities and helping, children on that. So would you like to tell us more about it?
Yeah, actually, when I was working in a school, I used to work with children who had issues, in learning things in the conventional way, and it's not like see, every child likes to learn. There's no child which doesn't want to learn. Every child wants to learn. The only thing is sometimes we do not teach them in the way they are ready to learn. So that is where the gap is. So, in a class of say 40 or 50 students, most often 45 of them will fall in line with the methodology that is normally followed in a classroom. But there will be a small percentage of people who struggle. Some of them, with a little bit of struggle, they're able to come up, but some of them just can't comprehend. So, those are the ones who need a different way of teaching, maybe a different methodology for them to grasp the concepts. And that is when I started working with them, is when I realized it. So I took up a course on that. And what I also saw was there was a gap in older people, adults understanding these children. Because most often learning disabilities is such a thing where the child is very good, is most often above average intelligence. Like if you're going to look at some other special needs, like an intellectual disability, the child will not have the normal intelligence that every child is expected to have as per their chronological age. Whereas here, the child could be average or above average intelligent, which means he will engage in all other activities, whether it is games, whether it is drawing room conversations, whether it is talking about the latest game series or whatever it is, he will talk very well. But when it comes to reading and writing, is where he becomes totally blank, or he is grossly under performing. So most often adults think that children who do this are doing it out of purpose. They are maybe lazy, or they just don't want to study, and they hate studying or writing or reading, and that's why they behave that way. So this is what led me to get into the area of train the trainer, where adults have to be addressed, because most often teachers or parents, when they call a child you're lazy, you're not doing it, it has an impact on the child. It has a long reaching impact because these are the elders who are important in his life. So when they start labeling him as lazy or doesn't want to do things, then it becomes a problem. So the elders have to understand what's going through in that child's mind when he's trying to learn. So that is an area where I'm working on, where I am part of an organization which conducts these training programs. So most often teachers come up with this question, like I have so many children and I'm successful in teaching so many, but some of them I'm not able to reach towards them. I'm not able to make any leeway. So that is where I work in that space.
Sure. Bhama, I think, it's like giving the entire tool set to the actual people who are there dealing
Yes.
with them and not making them dependent on you. And I think that's great, because, we learn that as a coach, as a counselor as well. And so I think that's great, and I'm sure it's not easy. And with mental health still being a taboo, if I may say, in India, and not still, it's while we've come a long way, but still there's some hushy thing around it. So any last parting comments on where do you see mental health, uh, professionals, mental health as a sector, uh, for entrepreneurs, and what really do you see coming up in this space?
Actually, the pandemic has spun a certain focus on this area, I would say. Although the pandemic per se was not a very good thing, but for mental health, I think mental health has come into focus largely because, and of course, we are going to feel the effects more in the coming weeks and months because we're already seeing it. Children don't want to return to classrooms. We have students, even in higher education, do not want to return to classrooms. So there is going to be a lot of gap in social behavior. And people have recognized that there is a need for people to connect on a neutral platform and be able to discuss their fears and apprehensions or, whatever they may be thinking about or whatever emotions they're going through. So, in terms of that, I think there is a little bit of a buzzword around it. But the thing is, still, we are lagging behind if you compare us to other countries. Mental health is grossly brushed under the carpet in India. And uh, I would love to see mental health being normalized. Like you're having a cold, you're having a fever, you have aches and pains, you go to the doctor, you don't think twice. So I want the same thing happening if somebody is not feeling well above their neck. So that is what is the day I would look forward to, and I hope it happens in my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Sechi is also focusing a lot,
Yeah, there are a lot of people, a lot of organizations, yourself, and even many people have now realized that community is the answer to most of these things. So communities like yourself are really a very encouraging thing for people like us who are, struggling to create awareness. So as a community, if more people come together and be part of platforms like Say Cheese, I think we will be speeding it up and we will be able to reach out to more and more people. And so, in that to that extent, I would say kudos to you and your team for coming up with this concept and allowing that space for women, particularly because women are the ones who are most often either ignored or denied, and they also tend to blend in the background and not make an issue of these things. They don't talk about it. So that way it's a great job that you and your team are doing.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Bhama, and it was lovely having you with us today. And we look forward to hosting you again and hearing more thoughts and more about your work. So thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajpreet. I enjoyed myself, and I'm so glad, and I wish Sechi's scales greater heights, and we have a lot more women coming on this platform. And yeah, I think you're doing great work in this area. All the very best to you.
Thank you. It's a long journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.